Hi, Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Aina Nazifa binti Zubair and today I'm going to be speaking to you about Helen Keller's impact on the world. First, we go through Helen Keller's biography. Helen Keller is known around the world as a symbol of courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Helen Keller was so important to changing the attitudes of the world toward handicapped people, but in particular blind people and deaf people. Helen Adam Keller was born with full sight and hearing on 27 June 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Yet at 19 months, she was stricken with what at the time was called brain fever and was left both blind and deaf. Helen Keller was a very privileged little girl. Her parents was quite wealthy and her mother in particular was a very intelligent and very well read. And she contacted the Perkins School for the Blind and managed to get help in the form of Anne Sullivan Macy, who is a very famous teacher of Helen Keller. Now let's move to the story life of Helen Keller. Anne Sullivan Macy, who is a very famous teacher of Helen Keller, again working with a finger spelling and other ways of trying to communicate with a very little success until one moment. The moment come, it hit Anne to take Helen out to the water pump and her hand pump the water and let the cold water flow through Helen's one hand while her fingers spelled WAGER and the other hand. Everything just came together for Helen and for Anne, and all of a sudden the behavioral problem disappeared and they started finger spelling and they managed to develop 30 different new words by the end of the first day. By 810, Helen Keller had mastered Braille as well as the manual alphabet. She also learned to use a typewriter. By age 16, Helen Keller could speak well enough to get to preparatory school. By age 24, she had graduated from Radcliffe College in 1904. She is the first blind deaf person to graduate from a college. And Sullivan Macy, her brilliant teacher, had to manually sign every single lesson into her hand. When Helen was still in college, she wrote her first book by her biography. From that, she began writing other articles and speaking, and because of her deaf blindness, people would pay attention in a way that they didn't to other people perhaps, and she used that to advocate for not just disability issue but political and social issue, including women's suffrage, birth control, and other issues as well. Helen Keller was famous from the age of 88, but her celebrity increased as she championed the cause of those with disability internationally. During the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, she traveled the world with 39 countries, bringing hopes and courage to millions of people. She changed the perception of people with vision loss. Rehabilitation center and school for blinds were established because of her visit. In the late 50s and early 60s, Helen Keller's life story was brought to the message with The Miracle Worker. First is a TV movie, then a Broadway show, and finally an Oscar-winning movie. She knew everybody from Alexander Graham Bell to Lyndon B. Johnson, and she was a brilliant and leveraged all the people that she knew for help to change the life of these with vision loss. Helen Keller lobbied on behalf of the American Federation for the Blind for 44 years before she died in her sleep on 1st June 1968, just a week away from her 88th birthday. Now that you already know who is Helen Keller, yes, let's look to the problems of deaf blindness in deaf and blind person. According to this graph, During the period 2000 until 2006, 3.3 of United States adults aged 80 years old and over were deaf or had a lot of trouble hearing without the use of hearing aid. Men with 4.3% were more likely than women with 2.4% to be deaf or have a lot of trouble hearing. Deafness or a lot of trouble hearing increased dramatically with age, rising from 0.9% among adults under age 45 to 3.1% among adults age 45 until 64 and 11.1% among adults age 65 and over. These age-related increases in deafness or a lot of trouble hearing were similar for men and women. Rate of a lesser degree of hearing trouble also rose with age increasing more than fourfold between age 18 to 44 with 6.7% and age 65 and over with 27.8%. Based on this graph, prevalence of fair or poor health status, difficulties with physical functioning, and serious psychological distress increase with degree of hearing loss. Adults who were deaf or had a lot of trouble hearing were about 3 times as likely as adults with a good hearing to be fair or poor health and to have difficulty with physical functioning such as walking, bending, reaching, and other. These adults were more than 4 times as likely as adults with good hearing to have experienced serious psychological distress. Adults who had a little trouble hearing also had higher rate of these health problems compared with adults who consider their hearing to be good. Diabetes and high blood pressure were more prevalent among adults who were deaf or had a lot of trouble hearing compared with adults with a good hearing. Analysis of differences by age indicated that these disparities were greatest among adults under age 65. As a conclusion, Helen Keller will be remembered for really transforming the view of the blind and others with disability period to her life. People with disability were seen as people who did not deserve to live full life, and Helen Keller's activism, her life story really challenged the stereotype and say that people with disability can live a full and complete life. So that's all for me about Helen Keller's impact on the world. Thank you.